Tom, thank you so much for being here and being a part of this broadcast. We're having such a wonderful time, and it's awesome to be ahead of people like yourself so we can interview.
Thanks for having me here, mate. I'm absolutely excited, especially knowing all the years ago when I was first sitting in a room like this.
Completely. Now, we were just quickly chatting off camera. You are at such a wonderful place of your life. And just from my heart, congratulations to you, what you've achieved. You're a brand new dad. You are with your wonderful wife. I know you've just purchased your first house as well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm just so happy for you in so many ways. Now, when you joined our school, it was not that at all. You were not even close to any of these things. Share with us, what was a bit of your backstory that led you to the place where you were actually looking for coaching education?
Matt, I was at a place of wanting to know why some people why some people make it, if that makes sense, and why I was stuck. Why was I on a hamster wheel of experiencing addiction, financial drama, not having my stuff together, relationship problems? It was like a hamster wheel going around and around. And it was just driving me insane. And I wanted to know, one, why is this happening? And two, is there a way out? Is there a way out? And specifically for me, that was being, in a large amount of debt, to be honest, and just massive overconsumption of alcohol to suppress problems like worry, doubt, fear. Can I be a business owner? Can I develop a relationship with someone one day and even potentially maybe have a family? Am I responsible enough? That was, what I was experiencing. I think it was almost, a while ago now before I joined.
So it's about 5 or 6 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
And what led you to the point where you wanted to explore coaching? One of the things that I love about coaching is not everyone has a zero to hero story. A lot of people join our school because they say, I'm in a really good place, but I want to contribute. I want to make more of a difference. I want to fulfill myself even more. You have a story that's similar to me in a way, where you were really in a dark place. You were in a place where you weren't really living a life that you were happy with. How did you get to the point where you said, well, maybe coaching education is going to be the thing?
To be honest, it's interesting that you asked me that, because I actually did look into other avenues. I looked into psychology, I looked into counseling, and coaching was last on the forefront of my mind. But something really interesting happened just before I went down the rabbit hole and became a member at the Coaching Institute. I realized something. It's interesting thinking about it. I realized that I had worked with counselors and psychologists in the past in a professional setting, worked with them one-on-one, but it was actually a coach that I'd been working with for 3 to 6 months, and I loved it. And I didn't realize that was an avenue for me. And even though I was experiencing pain and overwhelm, and I wasn't in a good place, there was something inside me that was just telling me it's okay. You don't have to have you don't have to have it together now. Something inside me knew that I was good with people. I did like to see people smile. I like to support people and nurture people. Just in the past, I did it to my own expense. So I put everyone else in front of me. If people wanted to go and drink, I would go and drink. If someone said, don't start a business, I'll worry more about their thoughts than my own. So when I looked at the three kind of avenues, or the two avenues, I would say more so a traditional therapy approach to coaching, the thing that really inspired me most about it was the thinking of, I kind of get to create what I want. I'm not really bound by the law of traditional therapy and what the government state, how you can set up a relationship with a client. So those were kind of the avenues. And most importantly, the coach that I was working with over 6 or 7 years ago, what inspired me most to change was that he gave me a glimpse into the behind the scenes for his life. I wasn't rocking up to work with someone and I knew, they weren't reading me anything out of a textbook. They weren't teaching me something and then going to do the opposite themselves, which is probably a big piece to my puzzle when it comes to being a coach, which is walking the walk rather than just talking the talk. I trust am I answering your question?
Completely. Now, I also want to ask you about your how you first got started. Now, I actually know the answers to these things because I've interviewed you many times, but I just think it's such a good story about the importance of asking for help and trusting your mentors and your guides. So when you first joined, you essentially started the course, but then didn't answer our phone calls for about a year. And I've told this story many times to people because I used to, when I was part of the coaching institute, we used to get together and we'd say, Tom's not answering his phone. Tom's not answering his emails. And we'd get on Facebook and we'd say, he's read our message, but he hasn't written back. Like we're trying to get Tom to answer the phone. Like, what's wrong? Is Tom okay? Tell us and share with us what was going on for you, because it's such an inspiration for other people. Because I know so many people have a problem around, is it okay to ask for help? And can I trust people? And
I love it how you shared it with me. You just brought back a blast from the past.
Yeah.
And when you were talking, I was like, in the moment, it was so hard. Like that first year for me, emotionally, it was hard. I made the decision to go all in. I made a decision for the first time in my life to invest in myself rather than invest in others, rather than, invest in anything that was just in the moment, dysfunctional, short-term pleasure, anything wasn't taking responsibility. I made a decision to take responsibility and invest in myself, even though I didn't know the end outcome. And that's what scared the hell out of me. And as you were sharing briefly, once I made that investment emotionally, energetically, and financially to go all in, a week went by and I kind of fell back into my chair and just went back into my old patterns. And I thought, hang on a second, I can't do this. I don't know what. Maybe I was just energetically excited in the moment and it wasn't for me.
Right.
But that couldn't have been the case because I never called to quit. I didn't respond to phone calls. I didn't answer the phone calls. TCI, you were calling me like, come on, we got your back. And I'm not answering. But I was never saying I was out. It was like a cry out for help. It was like, I'm probably sitting there going, I hope they keep calling me until the day I'm finally ready to go all in again. Right. That makes sense?
It does.
So for me, I love the part of me that's not an overnight success story. That's not a, one week went by and all of a sudden I had a business that was booming.
As soon as I began, I changed my entire life.
Yeah.
You had to go through the struggle of rewriting the old program. The thing that I take away from this is that I think that you were not used to being supported and being in a community of people that really gave a shit about you. This is so new to you. And correct me if I'm wrong. And as soon as you were in that, it's like you weren't open to actually receiving the support initially.
I'll be really honest with you. You're spot on. I don't know if I've shared this with you, but one of the things I learned over the first, I think it was about a year and a half before I really went all in, was I experienced an overwhelming level of emotion, which was along the lines of, I've never invested in a company or a resource that cared more about me than I did. And I experienced this overwhelming emotion. I was really vulnerable at the time. I'd probably, had a big night out and just been doing the stuff that I was doing, just playing irresponsible child. And I thought to myself, why is this company still calling me when I haven't responded to them in like 6 to 12 months? How can they even care? You know what I mean? That I'm already signed up with them. I could just blow away like a leaf in the wind and no one else would really know. Why do they keep calling me? And that's what triggered me to finally answering one of the phone calls from yourself. We had a lengthy conversation. I got into the course and I kind of never looked back from then.
Such a great story. It's awesome. And I'm glad I got an updated version of this because it's been 6 years. I actually share this story on a regular basis because I think it's just a great story about asking for help. Now, share with everyone watching this, what are you doing right now? So you're 6 years into your education here. And I think one of the things that maybe not everyone understands, but most people it's like once you start your education, you never stop, right? So when I say 6 years in, it doesn't mean that Tom had to wait 6 years to begin. It's completely the opposite. It's just kind of like you just never stop learning. But now 6 years into this journey for you, tell us, what are you focusing on? What are you doing? And what are you loving about what you've created as a result of your education?
The first and foremost is freedom and choice. 6 years ago, the dream, I remember creating a vision board. One of the first things I did through my studies was creating a vision board. And on that vision board, I had something to do with healthy relationships, location-free lifestyle, which meant a business of some kind that provided me the opportunity to live anywhere in the world that I wanted to live. And, really importantly, a life of choice and freedom, which was not reliant on traditional addiction like drugs, alcohol, gambling, things like that. Really, it was all about freedom and choice. And at that time, it seemed like such a pipe dream. And it's almost hard to language at the moment. I'm currently living in our dream location. I moved out of Sydney CBD, which is where I grew up my whole life. Never thought I could do that. We're currently, me and my wife and my beautiful 9-month-old baby girl, currently living in our dream location on the mid-north coast, which is, as I said, it's a dream location. It's an absolute dream. And second to that comes the vehicle of the beautiful coaching, mentoring business that I've been able to create that provides all of these opportunities, like freedom in regards to where do I live, how many hours do I do each week, what can I earn, things like this. Which is just like, I kind of got shivers as I talk about it myself, because when you remind me about where I was, it did seem like a pipe dream. But if hindsight wasn't a real thing and you could see and experience the other side, I would have invested 10, 20, 30 times my energy, financial investment to experience this. Hindsight's a funny thing, isn't it? Like, you can't experience it until you're there.
Can't do it. That's right.
Mate, that's where I'm at. That's what I'm experiencing. And Jamie and I, we get to run a beautiful business that supports hundreds of individuals to lower and change their relationship with alcohol. And I love doing it. I love facilitating. I love teaching. I love educating. I love providing a space for people to feel real safe and fantastic about themselves, which of course, a lot of people listening might, learn. It's so much of, if not most of it, is what I've learned from modeling at TCI and your group. And the way I look after clients is the way that, you guys looked after me when I started. And
Congratulations, mate. I'm so happy for you and what you've achieved. And also, it's not just business success. There's a lot of people here at the Coaching Institute that create a lot of business success, and business success is awesome, right? So, and also the financial freedom. When you say freedom, it's financial freedom, because it's the ability to be able to say, for example, right now we're going through this pandemic, and your mode of choice is to pull back a little bit more. You've got a 9-year-old girl, so you can spend more time with her. That freedom has come from the work that you've put in to be able to create a successful business. And I love for other people that are watching right now, there's no way you thought you could do that. There's no way you thought you could do that. Like, when you first began, you weren't even studying.
I did not think. I remember being recommended a book to read. I think it's called The 4-Hour Workweek or something. Right. And I thought, that's not how life works. The past 3 weeks, I never thought that I could work under 3.5 hours a day and my business turnover not be negatively impacted. Like, that didn't make sense to me. And over the past 8 weeks, that's what I've been doing. I've been working about 3.5 hours a day, because when I started, the journey for me wasn't about what's the external financial success look like. It's what's required to have that much amount of time with my future family. And then in order to experience that, it was creating a vehicle, creating a business, doing what I absolutely love, making money from that, which frees up my time. And that's my most valuable asset and resource at the moment. So when everything's going on and I've got a 9-month-old baby girl, that's my investment. It has to be that. I told myself, that's my promise, that I'm going to make time to experience this life, not get caught up making more and more money, which interestingly enough seems to be looked after anyway when you really do what you love.
I just want to keep on saying congratulations. But what would you say to someone? I imagine that there's going to be so many people that'll be watching this that'll be really inspired by what you've done and how you've committed to yourself and how you've lent into the education here. You received the support and the education, even though it was a challenge to do in the beginning. And you're now living a life that is based on your values. Your values are obviously around love, connection, and spending time with your family. You are a brand new father, which is just so wonderful to see. And also you're helping people overcome the challenge that you came here with, which was to reduce alcohol intake. Now you are You've got a whole program. I love seeing what you're doing on social media. I love your videos and everything, and your classes that you run on how to help people reduce their alcohol intake. I think it's a phenomenal thing to do, and especially as a man in Australia to be doing that is awesome. What would you say to someone who is inspired by this and is considering joining our community, joining our program, and becoming a successful coach?
Go all in. Say this from my heart. Your job isn't to know all the answers. It never is. It's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to show up, and that is it. And all I had to do over the year and a half when I started was just show up. Sometimes I didn't, but I never quit. And that's like, I really do believe that your job isn't to know the answers. Imagine if it was. Imagine how hard life would be if you were meant to know all the answers before you went in on yourself. I would never have joined. Imagine if I had to know all the answers about, overcoming addiction and relationships and business and marketing. Whoa, nothing would ever happen. Our only job in life, our only responsibility is learning the art of showing up and saying yes when it matters most. And if this is a moment for you that matters most to you, then follow it up by saying yes. And I truly hope, Matt, and for anyone that's listening, I hope to bump into you one day on the street and to turn around and have a conversation just like this. It warms my heart.
Thank you so much for being a part of this, Tom. You're a legend.
You're welcome, Matt. Thank you so much for having me.